Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you so much for that welcome. Everyone, thank you so much for your time and being here today. I'm extraordinarily honored to be here. Let's see if I can work the clicker. I'm truly honored to speak at Creative Mornings. I'm very honored to talk about this topic. This is a new and exciting experience for me because typically I'm either hidden behind spreadsheets, as Jonathan mentioned, or I'm in front of the camera, which allows for breaks, for fixing technology. It allows for me to not see all of your faces if you hate my jokes. So being in front of a large group of people to speak is a new experience for me. So this is an exciting journey that we're going to take together today. So a couple things that I want to tell you about before we kick off, before we get started. I am a very passionate and energetic person. So I'm a people too. So if I get fired up or go on a tangent, it's okay. It's a part of your regularly scheduled program. The other thing that I want to do today is, we don't often think about this, but you'll come to see why this is very important to me in just a little bit. But when we're at a live event, when we want to show our appreciation, right? Us in the hearing world typically do this. You're so great, thank you, yay. Well, if you can't hear, then that kind of sounds like this. So you need something else to show your appreciation. And there is a magical special deaf clap. And it's kind of like a fancy jazz hands, right? It goes like this. So try it out with me. Everybody do it? Yeah, oh look, that's what I'm talking about. Listen, if the mood strikes you, if the spirit strikes you, just anytime, right? You want to throw in some snaps? Some yas, queens. That's fine too, right? Just give it as you feel it, all right? But hold this one in your back pocket. So equality. Number one, can I just say that when I saw this face surrounding me today, I was like, yes, there is hope in the world. What I think is key about equality is that it plays a huge role in every single one of our lives. Whether it's working towards equality in your marriage, in your relationships, at your workplace, you'd like to drive to the grocery store without possibly getting shot. You would like to walk down the street without being taunted for being trans. Hell, you would like to volunteer to be in the United States military. In some way, shape, or form, even though our personal experiences and relationship with it may be different, it all touches our lives. So this morning, what I'd like to do is take you on a little portion of my journey with equality, being a trans man, how I got to be me, and also how I got really effing fed up and started spilling some tea. So I've heard the very best place to start a journey is at the beginning. So everybody, meet my family. Hey, family! Now, this adorable child right here, that's me. And I would just like to tell you that the look on my face is really saying this. One day, I will not wear this stupid freaking jumper ever again. The other thing that I love about this picture is that there's always one person in your family who's like, I can't believe I got a picture day. I don't want to be here, I don't want to do this, I don't want to wear these white pants. And my Aunt Jenny is absolutely that person. She clearly is not happy on family picture day. But listen, the person that I really want to talk about today is this lovely woman in the pink dress standing behind me. And she's better known as Debbie or Mom. Now, my mom is awesome. She's crazy, but she's awesome. The thing about my mom, she's about yay big, 4'10". You think that I have a lot of energy and passion? No. They put double that in that tiny package. She's just incredible. She's filled with so much joy, and so much energy, so much spirit, so much love, so much life. And the thing about her is that she was born 99% deaf. Now, she does also have some learning and cognitive disabilities, some challenges. So growing up, my grandmother was my parent. You know, she was the one that was like, no, you better be home by 8 o'clock, you better get good grades, blah, 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 blah. So my mom was like my kid's sister. And we just had a ton of fun together. And it wasn't until I got older that I really understood her difference and how it impacted me in the way that I walk in the world. So my mom, you know, being deaf, her socialization was very different, right? She has a very unique perspective of the world. For her, she sees the world as deaf or hearing. And it's not even in an attempt to separate communities, it's simply to say, okay, what do I do next? How do I have to approach you now that I know this about you? And what's interesting about her is that she also, because of her unique way of looking at the world, she doesn't really understand kind of our current social struggles the way that we do, right? So if I try to really explain to her all the things that trans community faces, or, you know, discussing non-binary or the binary, she just doesn't understand things in that way. Like, I mean, for me, she knows, okay, my kid is different. I love my kid no matter what. And you know, she even will tell people like, oh yeah, I used to have a daughter, but now I got 2 boys. And, you know, she just doesn't see it in the same way that we do. But what's awesome and magical about my mom is that the way she connects with people is just fantastic. It's just incredible. Because she, number one, is always willing to communicate. It doesn't matter what the challenge is. You got a crumpled up Target receipt in your purse, she gonna pull it out and write you a note. She will not be stopped. She will not be stopped. She'll write in the sand. She'll do whatever she needs to do. She will find the right tool. Now, being a CODA, which that's lingo for child of deaf adult, so now you know that. Being a CODA, you become an interpreter very quickly, right? So even as a small child, because I knew sign language and I could also hear and speak, when we were together, it was just infinitely easier for me to translate for my mom, to interpret for her. So it gave me the ability very early on and very quickly to talk to any type of person. I just didn't go through those motions when I saw people like, oh, you're this color, or you're this, or you're this, or this. It was just, I need something, I need to help my mom, I'm gonna talk to you, right? So the other thing about my mom, the way, because she, I think, connects with people so differently, she was never really fazed by anything that I came home and said to her. So, you know, when I came home and I was like, look at all my tattoos, yeah. She was like, okay, that's great, that's beautiful, I love them. That's wonderful, good job, honey. You know, and I would be like, I wanna move, no I don't wanna move, I wanna move, I can't make up my mind, you know. Or, hey mom, so I think I like girls. Is that okay? I like girls. She just wasn't really fazed by these things. Even when I came out, and I love this story because this is like perfectly my mom, right? So I am like a ball of nerves, right? Somewhat like I was this morning. Go to my mom's house and I am like, you know, the whole time I'm there, I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna rip this off like a Band-Aid. I'm gonna do this. So I go up to my mom, and I'm gonna do it in sign language too because it's really funny. So I go, I'm like, Mom, okay, I really need to tell you something. She's like, okay. I'm like, well, come here, let's sit down. I sit her down on the couch. I'm like holding her hands, and I'm already like, I'm done, right? Done. So I'm like, okay, Mom. I was like, so like inside, I've never felt like a girl, never. And it's so uncomfortable for me. I'm like, it's time for me. And you know, at this point, I'm shaking. My mom, she just reaches out her hand. She's like, and I'm like, what? I'm like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? She's like, I know. Oh, I know. Okay. What do you know that I don't know? Because I really would love some help. Thanks, Mom. She's like, oh, I know. She's like, you want to change. And my mind is already starting to be like, what? She's like, you want to change. She's like Cher's son. And I'm like, yes, Charles Bono, thank you so much. I'm like, yes, just like that. She's like, and this is what she does. She goes, okay, I don't care. Doesn't matter. I love all my children. That's what my mom always says. Anybody who's met my mom can testify to that. I love all my children. And that's my mom in a nutshell. She's kind, she's genuine, she's authentic. She never shames others for their differences. She doesn't shame herself. She doesn't see herself that way. And what my mom did for me was she taught me the foundations of equality. We are all people. We are all worthy of dignity and respect. We are all worthy of being spoken to with grace. And if you're kind and you're genuine, we'll be fine, right? The other thing that my mom did for me was that she very quickly revealed the wizard behind the curtain. We all kind of have this moment in our lives, right? Where, or at least I hope we do, where we realize these things that we're taught, that we so connect our identities to, that they're really not that important, and they're really just made up and arbitrary, right? Oh, girls can't wear this, boys can't do this, boys can't cry, blah, 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 blah. It's BS, right? You see behind that. You learn that life is so full of possibility, and it's exactly what you make it, right? So I was very, very lucky to live with my mom for until I was 16, and then, an accountant. So, and you know, then it was time for me to go to college and become an adult, and so, you know, I had to find myself. And this period of time is what I like to call my LESBITRANSNESSM, okay? Now look, bing, don't y'all be stealing my words. I know about y'all people. Even though my mom taught me how to find joy in everyday things and everyday life and love people and connect with people, my gender identity was a huge struggle with me my whole life. It was such a struggle for me. I didn't have really words for it, I didn't really understand it, but for some reason I couldn't extend the same kindness and grace that it was so easy to give to others to myself. And in times like this, you know, that's really what you need. And instead I ask myself questions like, why am I like this? Why don't I feel right? What's wrong with me, right? All very negative defensive questions. So what I did was try to kind of play the label game. I tried to put labels on myself that until I could, you know, that would fit, until I could find something that really felt like it fit. So I came out fairly early as a lesbian because I was like, well, you know, society says I'm a girl and I like girls, so that's what this label is. I'm a lesbian. But it just didn't fit. And then I tried all the other ones, like, you know, like, okay, I'm just a butch lesbian. I'm fine, I'm just a butch lesbian. No, I'm a really butch lesbian. Really. You know, and then there were all these random moments in my life, right, where I went to see the movie Boys Don't Cry. The one and only time I have seen that movie when it came out. And I sat in my car and I sobbed for like 30 minutes. And I couldn't even put, you know, words to that. I couldn't even explain that other than it just was so gut-wrenching to me. And, you know, I'm going through all these things as an adult, and one day somebody says to me, you know, it's really okay if you're a boy. And I was like, what? You don't know me. But they did. And it really, really got my wheels churning in a different way. Like, what if that is how I feel? Like, what does that mean? You know, and when I got to 32, which was a few years ago, I literally, still can remember it clear as day, I had this moment where I just picked up the phone and I was like, I don't know what this means. I don't know what I'm going. I don't know what I'm gonna call myself. I don't know anything. But what I know is that I can no longer have boobs. Okay? No more boobs. Thank you. No more boobs. Okay, now. And I still didn't have the language really for what was happening to me. All I knew is that I felt like crap, and I was so uncomfortable in my own body, and I had to do something, right? Like if I didn't live authentically, what was the point, right? What was the point? So I'm sitting at home, it's 2011, recovering from, now I've just told you how old I am. I'm sitting at home, it's 2011, and I'm recovering from my top surgery, and if y'all remember, that's when Oprah quit her show, left us all bereft, opened her, why? But then she created her own network, her own network, get it? Just thought of that. And I'm sitting at home, I'm by myself, and this documentary comes on her channel. Look who it is! Clearly, Mom and I have some real good love for this guy. So Chaz's documentary, Becoming Chaz, comes on TV. And I'm going to tell you, in two ways he changed my life. Because him being vocal showed my mom, right? But him being vocal truly saved my life. It did. Because here was somebody I will probably never meet in my life who was courageous and vulnerable enough to show his story on TV, on national television. And he said things that I told no one, not my family, not my best friend of 26 years. It was like he said, I wish that I could fake my own death and come back. And I had that exact same thought. And it was one of the most profound experiences of my life, and I never forgot that. I never forgot that he used his privilege and his position and his ability to be vulnerable and show the world what a trans story was like. And because of that, he gave me the freedom to be my authentic self. So after that, I came out to the world, and the other thing is, I don't use this word very often, but I am truly blessed. I'm so blessed that I was already surrounded by a community, family, friends, a workplace that really had no issues, right? They were like, okay, we got you. And that is not the typical trans experience, as I'm sure many of you have read about. There are so many trans people who don't get basic health care, who can't do any type of transition that they may want to do, who can't get jobs, who can't have housing. I mean, oh my goodness, a trans woman of color to walk down the street. So for me to have the experience from Chaz and then to go through my own experience where I was truly loved and cared for and appreciated and supported, that I wanted to give back to my community. And that was something that, as I moved forward over the next 5 or 6 years, it was always there. How do I give back? How do I give back to my community? And I wanted to do it in my way, right? Like, I'm a little kooky, a little crazy, and I really wanted to do it in my voice. And so it's almost like I just kind of had this seed there, and it was just waiting for the right thing to make it blossom, right? And then this happened. If y'all don't remember this date, I'll tell you what day it is. It is the day that HB, I cannot believe that you were actually going to do this, North Carolina, 2, was passed. So you know what I'm saying about that? Suck it, Pat. Suck it! Oh, makes me so, I'm about to get fired up, y'all. I can only say a few things about it because I'm going to get real fired up. Well, number one, my best friend and I have this saying, and it's kind of our adult version of I can't even, and we call it nonsense and bullshit. And this is what this is to me. It's just nonsense and bullshit, right? It was created with the express purpose of discrimination against trans people and the LGBT community as a whole. And it impacted a much wider community than that. But period, end of story. It is a law written in discrimination. If somebody tells you different, please feel free to give them my email address. We can have a conversation. The other thing I want to say is, as a trans person, oh, dang it, I have a microphone there. Accountant. Bathrooms are terrifying to trans people. Terrifying. It's been 6 years since I transitioned. And I still am like, okay, how many stalls are there going to be? I often send my friends in, and they're like, okay, come go recon, come tell me. They're terrifying. And this type of discrimination, sadly, we've come to be like, okay, well, that's North Carolina apparently right now, and that's Texas, and Alabama, and all these other places. But I want to tell you that bathroom discrimination does not happen in just those places. Right? The one time that I have been discriminated in the bathroom was not in any of those places, was not in the Bible Belt, was not in the South. It was in, wait for it, Seattle freaking Washington, right? Y'all can smoke weed legally, and y'all don't want me to go pee-pee. What is wrong with you people? Right? So this is something that is a huge part of trans people's everyday struggle, right? So clearly, as you can see, it made me livid. Coming for you with my purple hairbrush. Pat. Ooh, just makes me so mad. You done messed up now, Pat. I'm coming for you, pork chop. Listen. This is my home. I am from Raleigh, right? This is not my town. This is not the community that I know. This is not the experience that I had as a trans person, and it's not what I know that we want to stand for. So remember that seed? Remember that seed that got planted? So a group of us at Myriad got together, and we started brainstorming a response. And I've always wanted to try something in front of the camera, right? I mean, do some dancing, be silly, just so I could have, get some energy out. But no, I really wanted to do something in front of the camera. It's always been a dream of mine. And I love helping people. I love talking with people. I love connecting with people. So we kind of said, I've been kind of thinking about this idea of making, like a trans show. And, something that we could use to help educate. So here it was. It was my moment to do something that was in my voice for my community. So, introducing Tea Time with Sir Alex. Come on, listen up. Game face. This is a show where I drink a cup of tea and I enlighten you about trans issues. Stick up for people. And I'm going to be your host on this magical journey. Dignity, compassion, kindness. Have a great day. Thanks for having some tea. Yay! We made a show! So we made a show. We made a web series. And I'm so extraordinarily proud of this series. I want to take 2 seconds and say this. It may be my face that you see up there, but there is a lot of collective genius that went into making this show. And I could not be, I'm not going to get verklempt, y'all. I could not be more proud and more honored to work with the people that I do who are part of the Tea Time crew. You want to talk about some made trans allies. They stepped up. The producer of our show she teaches me. She comes in and is like, have you seen this? Have you seen that? I'm like, you are amazing. It's just, I can't even say enough love about that. And to work for a company that you can walk up to and say, okay, so we have this idea. We want to make a show. It's about trans issues because we're really pissed at Pat McCrory and HB2 and all the things that are going on. So can we do it, please? Thank you. And they're like, yeah, what do you need, right? So I just have to say, I'm so thankful for them. So we kicked off with small budget, great support. And what we wanted to do is to create a safe space where we could come together and have this dialogue where any and all questions can be asked, right? And you're not going to be shamed, you're not going to be ridiculed, you're going to be spoken to with dignity and grace and humor, right? So at our core, that is what we wanted to do. And for this first season, we kind of just pulled from our collective knowledge in the sense of, there are a lot of questions that people have right off the bat. And a lot of things that are still confusing people, like what's the difference between sexual orientation and gender identity? So we really tried to focus on that. And again, we ain't trying to go after crazy people. We don't try to rationalize with irrational people, right? Like that's not, but there's so many wonderful people in the world who don't get to meet trans people or who haven't met a trans person yet because that trans person that's probably in their life isn't able to be open, isn't able to share that with them yet. So what we wanted to do was really connect with everybody in that way. Spill a little tea, drink a little tea, have some love, and do some education, right? So, we are currently working on season 2. There will be more to come. We have a lot of ideas. maybe some podcasts and books, some things like that, one day. But no matter what we do in the future with Tea Time, the core will always be about fostering safe spaces for talking and learning about the trans community. So, it's my rainbow accordion. Don't you love that? It's one of my favorite things. I'm like, we're all in here. We're all in here. I cannot believe that our time together is almost over. But before we wrap up, I have one final story that I would really like to share with you. So, if you don't know these people, Katie Couric, we know Katie Couric. This is Carmen Carrera, and who's a model, and actress Laverne Cox. So, if you didn't know, Katie got her own daytime talk show, right? And she had Carmen and Laverne on one day, and she was interviewing them. And when she interviewed Carmen Carrera, she asked some really awkward, kind of inappropriate questions about a lot about her surgeries and like what kind of parts she has and things like that, And it was very awkward, very uncomfortable. So when Laverne comes out in the next segment, she defends Carmen and she tells Katie that, she says, when you do that, you're objectifying trans people, right? You're making us only about those things, and you're completely obscuring all of the things that we're fighting for. You're obscuring what our daily experience is like, and those are the things that we need to talk to the world about, right? So Katie Couric got a lot of flack for that, rightfully so, and in the sense of this was a moment for her to learn. And what she did was that she didn't shy away from it, right? So she didn't shy away from it. Instead, she owned up to it. And she had Laverne back on the show, right? And together, they had the most amazing conversation over their differences, right? With kindness, with grace, with humor, with all these things, right? And within that conversation, Laverne says something that I truly believe is so profound. And it is one of the keys in our individual journey towards greater equality. And this is what she said. It's only a mistake if you make it twice. Right? It's only a mistake if we make it twice. Because when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, right? To make essential connections with each other, where we can learn and grow with grace, that is the point that we will begin to achieve this new level of consciousness that we need, that is fundamental and vital to truly changing this world. Thank you very, 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 very much. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. Oh, and guess what? Guess what? I love questions. I love questions.
Questions.
I can do some dancing. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jonathan, because I'm 40% less hearing than I should.
Hey, Alex.
Hi.
I just want to say I'm so happy you took the time to hang out with us and tell us your story today.
Thank you for having me.
And yeah, I'm here on behalf of a very close friend of mine, my former roommate from college, who he's now about to start getting his doctorate in clinical psychology, military clinical psychology, as a matter of fact. And I was with him for that whole trans lesbianness experience. And we've sort of taken turns with each other, sort of filling in the gaps of explaining all the basics to people when he literally couldn't even anymore. And I mean, I really wish he could have been here with me today. I'd love to tell you more about him if you got time afterwards.
Sure.
But what can allies and, just everyday trans people like the rest of us do to keep rolling the ball with what you started?
Well, thank you very much for that. And really, it's my belief that the majority of us are not going to go stand in front of Congress, right? Where the majority of us are not going to be on that end of the fight for equality, which is very much needed, and we need all of us, right? This is the point. We need all of us. But I think it's really about those everyday touches, right? And think about, like, we all have that person that we know that we're just like, oh, they're just we just have to let them be. Don't let them be. That is a prime opportunity to say, because you know this person, to be able to say, hey, I know that this is what you think, but I'd love to show you something different. I'd love to show you some things that maybe will open your eyes to something new. And I don't mean to make that so simple in the sense that, oh, that's just easy. It's not. Believe me, it's difficult. But when we hold each other accountable in kindness, right, then we have to, that's where we're really going to be able to open our minds to learning something new. And I think there's a flip side to that coin, like part of tea time is to say, you're not going to offend me to ask questions, right? If you ask a question that's not really the right way or the best way to ask a trans person a question, I'll let you know. But why am I going to shame you for something you don't know? Like, you don't know what you don't know, right? So I think there's two sides to that coin, and that's kind of what I feel is so important, And my experience with my mom, and we didn't talk about like a bunch of my other family, but I'm extraordinarily different from the majority of my family. They're very traditional, they're very right-wing, but we have this uniqueness that we don't, like, love and acceptance first. The rest is, is your personal belief. So really, it's about those everyday touches, right? Do it, we got this.
Alex, thank you so much for sharing. I've watched some of your shows and knew some about you, had no clue about your mom, and I actually am in the steps working towards starting a sustainable organic farm in East Africa in Kenya to raise abandoned deaf children. And so I used to work in Nairobi with finding hidden deaf children in the villages and teaching Kenyan Sign and educating parents. And I'm wondering what your approach is, or how you've kind of worked with education of equality and compassion and love with the deaf community here, because I'll be stateside for about 3 more years until, I'm getting land this summer, hopefully, how land goes in Kenya. But yeah, kind of like how, as my mom heart is growing for getting back to the kids over there, it's like how, and culture is so different, but how have you done it with your approach of your mom here and other deaf community here with sharing your story?
Sure. So I think what really taught me from what I learned from my mother was really this. We all have the capacity to learn those things, but we have to be willing to understand how the other person it takes in information, right? So in other words, my mom doesn't understand a lot of things, and she certainly doesn't understand them in the way that we do. But there's always a way, right, that you can find the core of your message. So for my mom, like, she doesn't know a lot of, she doesn't know a lot of the intricacies of the trans struggle and trans fight, but she understands that there are people in the world like me, and she understands that it's a personal journey that we go through, that as she explains it, she's like, I understand, inside, you feel inside. So it's really about breaking it down to communicate with the person in the way that you can both understand. So that's really been, and especially because the deaf community is very interesting in the sense that, my mom is 61. So for her experience was like, ooh, you're going to boarding school, like, we're going to teach you this bare essentials, but we don't think that you're capable of learning a lot of these things. There's a lot of discrimination against deaf people, certainly when she was young. So there's a lot of variance in the deaf community as far as, you know, understanding those types of things that are going on in our culture. So really, my mom taught me, find the common ground. Find the way that you know that person can understand, right? Get rid of the noise, get rid of the rest, and really get the core of that message across. That's really, for my mom, that's what I do all the time. And it's been a struggle for my brother, who's younger than I am, and I've had to teach him, like, you're talking to mom like you would talk to me. That's why she doesn't understand you. You have to talk to mom in the way that mom understands. Yeah. It's a great question.
I was just wondering, I know sometimes I can definitely be self-deluded, and I think sometimes if you ask, we like to think, especially in the city, oh, we're getting better about certain things, and I guess we don't get that opportunity to actually ask people on the other side of either sexuality or race or any kind of minority. Do you really think, you know, in your opinion, when you walk down the street or just when you're existing, do you feel that? Do you think that we are getting better as a society, or what would you say to that?
Oh, that's a very good question. I would say that that my experience with the shuffle of life is kind of, we go, ha ha ha, wait, ha ha ha, wait, ha ha. So it's kind of like that. I feel a lot of, you know, it's progress, not perfection. Like, you know, I do believe, and I will always believe this, if Tea Time helped one person, then it made a difference, right? Because every step that we can take forward is a step forward. So I do think that we are getting better. I think we have a hell of a long way to go. I think there are fundamental changes that need to be made in ourselves and our collective consciousness. I mean, this is really where the change begins, right? There's a fantastic quote, probably most of you know it, from Einstein, and it says, "A problem cannot be solved with the same consciousness that created it," right? So this is kind of my belief in the sense that everyday touches matter. They matter. It matters how you walk up to somebody and talk to them, because they carry that experience and that energy and that interaction with them, right? And it colors a portion of who they are for that day, right? So I do believe that we're getting better. I feel like the conversation around the trans community is really just beginning. Right? We kind of saw the same thing play out, like what, decade or so ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago? How old am I? But when Ellen came out, I mean, think about this. Ellen was on the cover, I'm gay. Laverne's on the cover, right? The tipping point, right? So we're getting kind of the same dialogue going with the trans community. So we're at the beginning. But I know this guy, I'm bound and determined. We're going to make progress forward. So it is. And again, right? And again, I absolutely recognize that my experience is very special in the sense that, you know, I'm privileged. I'm trans, yes, but I'm white, and I'm male, and I'm not visibly trans, which means the majority of people don't look at me and go, oh, you're a trans person, right? The majority of people look at me and go, you're a dude, which I am, but I'm a trans dude, right? So I know that my experience is very different than a trans woman of color, right? And I feel like that is where I can help the most, to say, you know, this is my experience, but this is why. And I know that that's why. And it's not the same for, you know, my fellow human beings who are simply trying to be their authentic selves. And I say that for every human being being their authentic self, right? If we are not willing to value each other as humans and connect on that point and stick up for each other, we're not going to get very far, right? That's the point. That's the point. This intersectionality where we have got to be willing to stick up for other freaking people who are going through the same stuff, right? We cannot be silent anymore. Yas, queen, yas! Give it up. Like it's, you know, listen. It's easy to say and difficult to do, but it's the simple truth. We make up the collective conscious. We impact that. We are the people who do that. Everything you do matters in that way. It does. It does.
Thank you, Alex. Let's wrap it up there. Awesome. So just want to give a quick thank you again to Cam for letting us use this incredible space, to Counterculture, to Yellow Dog, to Oak City Productions, to Alpha Production Group, to the entire group that puts on this event every single month. Thank you especially to all of you who've created this warm, welcoming environment that we can all come together and have conversations like this. We can create this welcoming space. And more than anything, thank you to Alex for sharing your story. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Have a great Friday.
Friday!